You know what the biggest mistake most people make in relationships? They're too nice. Not kind, not warm, those are beautiful qualities. I'm talking about the kind of nice that bends over backward, that tiptoes around what they really want, that makes them a doormat in the hope that someone will choose them. And guess what? That kind of nice isn't attractive. It doesn't create desire. It creates comfort, convenience, and worst of all, complacency. Let's get one thing straight. If your strategy in love is to always be agreeable, always accommodating, always putting his needs before your own, then you're not being nice. You're abandoning yourself. And when you abandon yourself, you teach others to abandon you too. You're setting a precedent that your needs, your boundaries, and your desires are secondary. And the moment someone senses that you're willing to put yourself last, they stop feeling the need to prioritize you. That's not love. That's not connection. That's a slow erosion of your self-respect. Now, I get it. There's this belief, especially for women, that if you're too direct, if you state your needs too clearly, if you say what you actually want, you'll come off as difficult, as high maintenance, as someone who asks for too much. And so what happens? You shrink. You swallow your opinions. You say, I'm cool with whatever, even when you're not. You let things slide. You accept less than you deserve. And all because you're terrified of being seen as too much. But here's what happens when you do that. In trying not to be too much, you become invisible. You become easy to overlook. And worst of all, you send the message that you don't even believe in your own value. And if you don't believe in your own value, why should anyone else? The most magnetic people in the world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to be liked. They're the ones who own their worth, who walk into a room and say, this is who I am, take it or leave it. Because when you believe that you bring something incredible to the table, you don't have to convince anyone else of it. They feel it, they sense it, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak, in the way you engage with the world. Think about someone you deeply respect. Someone who commands attention when they walk into a room. They don't do it by being overly accommodating. They don't do it by trying to please everyone. They do it by standing firm in who they are. They do it by knowing their value so well that they don't need external validation to reinforce it. And this is where so many people go wrong. They seek that validation from others before they've even given it to themselves. They wait for someone to treat them well before they believe they're worthy of being treated well. They wait for someone to choose them before they believe they're worth choosing. And as long as you're waiting for external validation, you will always be at the mercy of someone else's approval. That is not power. That is not confidence. That is dependency. And dependency is the fastest way to lose attraction. So what's the alternative? You stop seeking validation and you start giving it to yourself. You start treating yourself like someone who is valuable. You start acting as if you are the prize, not in a way that's arrogant, not in a way that's entitled, but in a way that says, I respect myself too much to chase anyone's approval. Because that's when the dynamic shifts. That's when people start looking at you differently. That's when you stop attracting people who take you for granted and start attracting people who step up to meet you at your level. Now, let's be real. This isn't about playing games. It's not about pretending to be detached or uninterested just to create an illusion of value. It's about genuinely valuing yourself so highly that you don't feel the need to beg for love, attention, or validation. And I know for some of you, that might feel uncomfortable. Because if you've spent years defining your worth based on how other people see you, the idea of standing in your value without external reassurance might feel unnatural. It might even feel risky. But I promise you, the moment you stop looking outward for confirmation of your worth and start looking inward, everything changes. People sense it. They feel it in your energy. And suddenly, instead of being the one trying to prove your worth, you become the one who others are eager to prove themselves to. Because value attracts value. Confidence attracts confidence. And when you radiate self-worth, people can't help but be drawn to you. But here's the key. You have to be willing to let go of anyone who doesn't recognize that value. You have to be willing to walk away from anyone who treats you as an option, because if you're not willing to do that, then you're still operating from a place of fear. Fear of losing them, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. And fear is the enemy of attraction. Fear makes you shrink. Fear makes you settle. Fear keeps you in situations that drain you rather than elevate you. And I'm telling you right now, you are worth more than that. You are worth more than waiting around for someone to realize how incredible you are. You are worth more than playing small so that someone else feels comfortable. The moment you stop trying to prove yourself to others and start owning your worth, everything changes. Because real love isn't about being chosen. It's about choosing yourself first. And when you do that, the right people, the ones who see your value, who appreciate you, who respect you, will choose you too. If there's one thing that will change the way a man sees you, the way he values you and the way he treats you, it's the boundaries you set. And more importantly, whether you actually stick to them. Because here's the truth. People will treat you however you allow them to. And this isn't just about men, it's about life. The way people behave around you, the way they speak to you, the way they respect your time, your energy, your emotions, it all comes down to what you accept. Now, let's talk about what happens when you don't set boundaries. You meet someone, you like them, and you start making little allowances. Maybe he cancels plans last minute. And instead of addressing it, you tell yourself, oh, he's just busy. Maybe he's inconsistent with his attention, sending mixed signals, but you keep giving him time because you don't want to seem demanding. And every time you excuse these things, you're training him, you're teaching him that this is okay, that you're willing to accept less than what you deserve. And before you know it, you're in a situation where you're constantly second-guessing yourself, feeling undervalued, wondering why he doesn't put in more effort. But here's the truth. He doesn't have to, because you've already shown him that you'll be there no matter what. The mistake so many people make is thinking that setting boundaries will push people away. That if you demand respect, if you ask for more, if you say no to things that don't serve you, then you'll lose the person. But the reality is, if setting boundaries pushes someone away, they were never the right person to begin with. The people who genuinely want to be in your life, the people who truly care, will respect the standards you set. And those who don't, they were only there because they knew they could take advantage of you. But here's the key. Boundaries are not about ultimatums. They're not about telling someone what they need to do. They're about deciding what you were and won't accept. They're about action, not words. If a man is constantly keeping you as an option, if he's inconsistent, if he disrespects your time, your response shouldn't be, you need to change. It should be, this isn't working for me, so I'm going to step back. Because when you say that and actually mean it, it forces him to decide whether he's going to rise to meet your standards or let you go. And the right person will always choose to step up. But too often, people don't stick to their boundaries. They say one thing and do another. They say, I need consistency. But when a man disappears for a week and comes back with a half-hearted excuse, they let him back in like nothing happened. They say, I won't tolerate disrespect. But when a man pushes their limits just a little bit, they justify it. Every time you break your own boundaries, you reinforce the idea that they weren't real in the first place. And if they're not real to you, they won't be real to him. So the question is, how do you set boundaries and actually stick to them? It starts with knowing what you value. What do you want in a relationship? What kind of behavior do you deserve? And once you know that, you act accordingly. If respect matters to you, then you don't entertain someone who plays games. If honesty matters to you, then you don't keep giving chances to someone who lies. And if commitment matters to you, then you don't settle for someone who keeps things casual when you want something serious. And here's the most important part. When you set a boundary, you have to be willing to walk away. You can't just hope that someone will change. You have to be okay with losing the wrong person so that you can make space for the right one. Because the truth is, the wrong people will always test your boundaries. They will see how far they can push. And it's up to you to show them that you're not someone who can be pushed. You are not an option. You are not a convenience. You are someone who deserves effort, consistency, and respect. And when you start living by that standard, when you truly embody it, you won't even need to demand respect, because the right people will recognize your value without you having to prove it. And the wrong ones, they'll simply fall away, making room for the kind of connection you actually deserve. You can be warm, you can be kind, you can be the most generous person in the room, but the moment you start living for other people's approval, you lose yourself. There's a difference between being a good-hearted person and being a people pleaser. And it's that difference that defines how you're treated in relationships. We're often taught that being agreeable is the way to someone's heart. That if we just say yes, if we just accommodate, if we just go along with what they want, they'll see how wonderful we are. But what happens instead? We get overlooked. We get treated as an option, not a priority. Because being agreeable isn't what makes people value us, it's what makes people take us for granted. Think about it. Have you ever had a moment where you felt like you were giving everything in a relationship, always making the plans, always being the one to compromise, always being the one to adjust, and yet somehow you were still the one left feeling unappreciated? It's not because kindness is the problem. It's because kindness without boundaries makes you invisible. People respect what they have to earn. They respect what has a stand. And when you're always agreeable, always doing what makes someone else happy at the cost of your own needs, what you're really saying is, I don't need anything. I'm just happy to be here. But that's not the message you want to send. Because the moment someone feels like you don't require anything from them, they stop giving to you. That's why it's not about being nice. It's about being kind in a way that still respects yourself. When you're warm, when you're engaging, when you bring joy and laughter and energy to an interaction, that's a beautiful thing. But it has to come from a place of confidence, not desperation. It has to come from a place of, I love sharing my energy with people, but I'm not afraid to walk away if my energy isn't being valued. Let's talk about how this plays out in dating. You meet someone and right away, you feel a connection. You laugh at their jokes, you show interest, you engage in a way that makes them feel seen. That's powerful. That's what draws people in. But here's where so many people go wrong. Instead of letting that attraction build naturally, they start over-investing. They think if I just do more, if I just make myself even more available, if I just go the extra mile, they'll see how much I care and they'll want me even more. And that's when the dynamic shifts. Instead of creating attraction, you start erasing the challenge. Instead of drawing them in, you start making it too easy for them to assume you'll always be there no matter what. Attraction is about balance. It's about giving and receiving. When you're too eager to please, you take away the space for someone to step up and meet you halfway. And here's the ironic part. The very thing you think will make someone like you more, being overly agreeable, is often the thing that makes them lose interest, because there's no tension, no mystery, no need for them to invest in making you happy, because you're already bending over backwards to do all the work for them. So what do you do instead? You stay warm, but you don't overextend. You show interest, but you also have a life outside of them. You engage, but you don't chase. When they say something you don't agree with, you don't just nod and go along with it. You speak up. You share your opinion. You let them see that you have a perspective, a mind of your own, and that you're not afraid to express it. That's what makes people take notice. That's what creates real respect. And the most important part, you recognize that your kindness is valuable, and not everyone deserves unlimited access to it. Being kind doesn't mean you have to be available all the time. It doesn't mean you have to respond to every text immediately, say yes to every last-minute plan, or tolerate behavior that makes you feel unappreciated. It means you treat people with warmth and respect, but you also expect that in return. And when someone isn't giving that to you, you don't complain, you don't beg for more, you simply step back and let them feel your absence. Because if they value you, they'll notice. And if they don't, then you've just saved yourself time on someone who was never going to give you what you deserve in the first place. This isn't about playing games. It's about being someone who naturally commands respect because you respect yourself first. People will always treat you the way you allow them to. So if you want to be treated like you matter, you have to start acting like you do. That means standing by your standards. That means being willing to walk away from situations that don't feel good. That means understanding that your worth isn't in how much you give, but in the value of what you bring when you do give. So the next time you catch yourself saying yes when you really want to say no, or over-explaining your feelings because you're afraid of how someone might react, or going out of your way to accommodate someone who wouldn't do the same for you, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I genuinely want to, or am I doing this because I'm afraid of losing their interest? Because if it's the second one, that's not kindness, that's self-sacrifice. And the only people who benefit from that are the ones who are never going to appreciate you in the first place. Real confidence isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being warm in a way that still holds power. It's about being someone who brings value to the people around them, but never at the expense of their own. It's about knowing that the right people, the ones who truly deserve a place in your life, will be drawn to your energy, not because you're bending over backwards for them, but because they recognize something rare in you, someone who is kind, but not a pushover, someone who is generous, but not a doormat. Someone who is warm, but never afraid to walk away when they're not being valued. And that is what makes you truly magnetic. There's something I see happening all the time, and it's the fastest way to lose a man's respect. It's when you start chasing instead of challenging. You meet someone you're interested in, and suddenly your entire energy shifts. You find yourself constantly checking your phone, waiting for his message. You start rearranging your schedule to accommodate him. You think, if I just show him how amazing I am, he'll realize what he has. But that's not how attraction works. See, when you chase someone, what you're really doing is positioning yourself as the lower value person. You're showing them that their presence is more valuable than yours. And that's dangerous, because the moment someone senses that they don't have to work for your attention, they stop valuing it. It's human nature. When something is handed to us on a silver platter, we take it for granted. But when we have to put in effort, when we have to show up, invest, prove ourselves, then we cherish it. Then we see its worth. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I want to show him I care. I don't want to play games, and I get it. This isn't about playing games. It's about showing up in your life as someone who values themselves enough to be pursued. You don't have to manipulate. You don't have to pretend. You just have to stop doing all the work. Think about the moments in your life when you've been most excited about something. A job, a passion, a goal. Was it something that was just handed to you? Or was it something you had to work for? That's the same dynamic in attraction. When a man knows he doesn't have to try, when he knows he doesn't have to bring his best to impress you, he stops trying. But when he feels like he has to step up, when he knows that you're someone who expects a certain level of effort, he rises to that challenge. You want to know what confidence looks like? It's knowing that if someone doesn't put in effort, they don't deserve a place in your life. It's knowing that your time, your energy, your presence, they are valuable. You don't give them away cheaply. You don't prove your worth to someone. You allow them to prove theirs to you. And when they do, you respond with warmth, with presence, with appreciation, but only when it's deserved. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like not being so available. It looks like keeping your own plans, your own priorities, even when someone new enters your life. It looks like not being the one to initiate every conversation, every date, every moment together. It looks like giving space for someone to show up, rather than filling in the gaps for them. Because the right person, they will step up, and the wrong person, they'll fade away. And that's exactly what you want. You don't want someone who only sticks around because you're making it easy for them. You want someone who's there because they choose to be. When you become someone who challenges instead of chases, everything changes. Your energy changes. The way people respond to you changes. You start attracting people who see your value because you see your own value first. And the best part, You don't have to force anything. The effort stops feeling one-sided. The connection starts to feel mutual. And you finally realize that you were never meant to beg for someone's time, attention, or love. You were meant to receive it from someone who knows exactly what you're worth. There's something incredibly attractive about a person who knows their worth. It's not arrogance, it's not entitlement, it's an unshakable confidence that says, I know what I bring to the table, and I refuse to settle for anything less than I deserve. That energy changes everything. It changes how people treat you, how they perceive you, and most importantly, how you perceive yourself. Because the moment you start leading with high standards instead of fear, the dynamic shifts. The power is no longer in someone else's hands, waiting for them to decide whether they will treat you well or not. The power is in yours. The problem is too many people approach dating from a place of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of pushing someone away, fear of being seen as too much. And that fear makes them tolerate behaviors they should never accept. It makes them second guess their own needs. It makes them stay silent when they should speak up. They lower their standards, not because they genuinely want less, but because they think asking for more will scare someone away. But here's the truth. If asking for what you deserve scares someone away, that's not the person you want to build a life with. That's not the kind of love that's going to fulfill you. Because the right person, the kind of person who truly values you, won't be intimidated by your stand. They'll respect them. Now, let's be clear. Having high standards doesn't mean creating an impossible checklist. It doesn't mean demanding perfection. It means knowing the difference between compromise and self-betrayal. It means recognizing when you're bending so much that you're breaking. And it means understanding that love should feel like a partnership, not a constant effort to prove your worth. When you lead with high standards, you don't accept half-hearted effort. You don't accept someone treating you like an option while you treat them like a priority. And you certainly don't beg for time, attention, or respect. Because real love isn't about convincing someone to choose you. It's about choosing each other fully and willingly. Think about it this way. When you walk into a store and you see something of value, something rare, something beautiful, you understand that it comes with a price. You don't haggle. You don't expect to get it for free. You either recognize its worth and pay the price, or you walk away. The same applies to relationships. When you carry yourself with value, when you hold yourself to a high standard, the right person won't try to bargain with your worth. They won't ask you to shrink yourself or accept less than you deserve. They will step up or they will step aside. This is why it's so important to have the courage to walk away when something isn't right. Too many people stay in situations that drain them, hoping that if they just give it more time, if they just try a little harder, things will change. But here's the hard truth. You can't change someone who doesn't want to change. You can't make someone value you if they don't already see your worth. What you can do is refuse to participate in a dynamic that doesn't serve you. You can choose yourself. And choosing yourself isn't an act of selfishness. It's an act of self-respect. The reality is, people will treat you the way you allow them to. If you let someone disrespect your time, they will. If you allow someone to play games, they will. If you accept less than what you deserve, they will continue to give you less. But the moment you make it clear that you won't tolerate anything beneath your standards, the right people will take notice. They'll understand that being in your life is a privilege, not a right. And the ones who aren't willing to rise to that level, they'll fall away. And that's exactly what you want. Because the wrong people leaving makes space for the right person to step in. So how do you start leading with high standards instead of fear? You start by getting clear on what matters to you. What are your non-negotiables? What are the things you absolutely need in a relationship to feel valued, respected, and fulfilled? And once you know those things, you stop making excuses for people who don't meet them. You stop justifying behavior that doesn't align with the love you want. And you remind yourself every single day that you are not here to beg for the bare minimum. You are here to receive a love that matches the love you give. When you shift from fear to high standards, you move differently. You don't tolerate inconsistency. You don't entertain mixed signals. You don't stay in places that make you feel unworthy. Instead, you hold yourself with grace, confidence, and certainty. And that kind of energy, it's magnetic. It draws in people who respect and admire you, not people who want to take advantage of you. At the end of the day, love isn't supposed to feel like an uphill battle. It's not supposed to be about proving yourself or fighting for scraps of affection. It's supposed to be mutual. It's supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to bring out the best in you. And the only way to create that kind of love is to demand it. Not with words, but with actions, by refusing to settle, by standing firm in what you deserve, by knowing deep in your soul that you are worthy of a love that is full, whole, and unwavering, and anything less doesn't belong in your life. You see, one of the biggest mistakes people make in dating is thinking they have to lay all their cards on the table from day one. They feel this pressure to prove their worth immediately, to show just how great they are, how much they bring to the table. And in doing so, they leave no room for curiosity, no room for intrigue. But here's the thing. When something is predictable, when there's nothing left to discover, we naturally stop investing in it. It's not because we're playing games. It's because human nature is wired for curiosity. We value what we still have to figure out. Think about it. When was the last time you binged watched a TV series? The reason you stayed up until 3 a.m. watching episode after episode wasn't because the show told you everything in the first 5 minutes. It was because there was an unfolding story. You had questions and you wanted answers. Every time one question was answered, another one was raised. That's what kept you coming back. In dating, it's the exact same principle. The moment you make someone feel like there's nothing left to discover, they stop exploring. It doesn't mean they don't like you. It doesn't mean you aren't amazing, but it does mean they no longer feel that pull, that desire to keep learning more. It's that sense of mystery, that feeling of, I don't have this person all figured out yet, that makes someone want to keep showing up. Keep investing. But let's be clear. Being mysterious doesn't mean being distant. It doesn't mean playing hard to get in a way that's inauthentic. It doesn't mean withholding affection or acting disinterested when you're actually excited about someone. Being mysterious is about maintaining depth. It's about not giving everything away too soon. It's about having layers to who you are. Layers that are revealed over time, not all at once. It's about allowing someone to get to know you in stages so that each stage keeps them engaged and intrigued. This is where a lot of people struggle. They meet someone they like and they go all in, sharing everything about themselves within the first few dates. They think, if I just show them who I am, if I just lay it all out there, they'll see how amazing I am and they'll never want to leave. But the truth is, it's not about proving your value in one grand gesture. It's about allowing someone to earn access to different parts of you. It's about creating moments of discovery so that they feel like they are continually learning and growing with you. When someone asks about your past, don't feel the need to spill every detail right away. Instead, offer just enough to spark their interest and let the rest come naturally over time. When someone asks about your dreams, your passions, your views on life, don't give them the entire script in one conversation. Let them discover these things organically so that each interaction leaves them wanting to know more. This doesn't just keep things exciting for them, it keeps things exciting for you. When you allow your story to unfold gradually, you create a foundation that's built on depth rather than intensity. And intensity can be thrilling in the beginning, but it fades fast if there's nothing deeper underneath it. Depth is what lasts. Depth is what keeps someone coming back, not just because they're infatuated, but because they feel connected to something real, something that still has more to offer. It's also about maintaining a life that is full outside of the relationship. If you make someone the center of your world too soon, you lose the very thing that made you attractive in the first place. Your individuality, your energy, the unique life you were leading before they came along. The best relationships happen when two complete individuals come together, not when one person drops everything to revolve around the other. Keep pursuing your passions, your friendships, your ambitions. I bet. Stay committed to your growth, your evolution, your own journey, because when you do, you naturally create an air of mystery, not by trying, not by pretending, but by simply being someone who has a life that is compelling and fulfilling beyond romance. When someone sees that you're not dependent on them for excitement, that you have your own sources of joy and fulfillment, they don't feel pressured. Instead, they feel intrigued. They feel like they want to be part of your world, not because you need them to be, but because your world is so engaging that they can't help but want to be in it. That's the kind of energy that draws people in. Not desperation, not over-availability, but a natural, effortless confidence that comes from knowing you are enough on your own. And here's where this really pays off. When you maintain that sense of mystery, when you allow someone to keep discovering new things about you, it makes every stage of the relationship feel fresh. It prevents stagnation. It keeps that spark alive. Because no matter how long you've been together, there's still more to learn, still more to uncover. That's the magic of real connection. It's not just about attraction. It's about continued fascination. It's about knowing that every time you spend time with this person, you're going to walk away having experienced something new, something deeper, something that makes you appreciate them even more. So don't rush to give everything away. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that the way to win someone over is to lay out your entire heart and soul in the first few weeks. Give them a reason to keep showing up. Let them earn access to your depths. Let them feel like they are constantly uncovering something valuable, something rare, something that not just anyone gets to see. Because when you do that, you create a connection that isn't just based on fleeting attraction. It's built on a foundation that lasts.